The Ulduar PTR has been up for a couple of days now, and I've been taking a first look at it from the 10-man normals all the way up to the 25-man hard modes. Let's just get it straight out of the way. This will be by far and away the largest step up in raiding difficulty in Classic so far, and it's just not even close. At the gear we will approach this content, a lot of it is very tightly tuned, borderlining on not possible without extreme class stacking. If your guild progressed on pre-nerf tier 5 content or on the Sunwell, well, you better be getting back into that mindset if you've the goal of seeing everything that Ulduar has to offer. I think a lot of the semi-hardcore guilds are really going to be put to the test in this instance early, and even the real hardcore speedrunning guilds will experience progression. And whilst gear from the instance will certainly bridge the gap over time, there are quite a few mechanic check bosses later on in there too. Before we go on, I want to do a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Keeps. Keeps is an online subscription service that helps men keep their hair where it counts, with personalized and clinically proven treatments that are delivered directly to your door. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of hair loss by 35, but Keeps has you covered. Keeps treatments are doctor recommended and delivered straight to your door, saving you on both time and money. So whether it's preventing loss, stimulating growth, or just taking better care of your hair in general, Keeps can help. Once subscribed, you'll get refill reminders as well, so you're never caught short on the products you need to take care of your hairy goals. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/WillE or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/WillE. Many thanks to Keeps for the sponsor today. Let's talk WoW. As of Blizzard's recent patch notes on Ulduar, this place has been giga buffed all of the way through. Take XT on hard mode for instance. He's the 4th or 2nd boss, I guess, if you prefer, and his hard mode is entirely optional. Even if you want to do Algalon, you don't need to do this, it's just there for the achievement and some extra loot. And you should probably be thankful that this is optional, because the DPS check in tier 7 BIS is crazy high. I did a little bit of digging on the internet and found an old tank spot video, that's a blast from the past name, about a guide on XT hard mode. Here you can see after they kill the heart and activate hard mode, there's still an 8-minute enraged timer, which began at 10, and the boss heals up to 36 million health. So we're talking an overall raid DPS of about 75k to meet that, and if we break that down over 19 DPS, that's under 4,000 each, which isn't exactly much of a tall order, is it? Here is, in comparison, today's XT. First up, with current gear, you more or less have to pop hero and cooldowns to burn through the heart and actually activate hard mode in the first place, at which point it heals to full health and his health bar goes to 56 million with an enraged timer of 6 minutes. Let's do some quick maths again. That's an average raid DPS of 155,000 needed, with around 8k per DPS if you were using 19 of them. And 8k DPS maintained over 6 minutes on a single target is actually pretty tough, especially when you've just blown all your cooldowns to actually activate the hard mode in the first place. There were some DPS sims going around the other day estimating performance changes from P1 BIS to P2 BIS in Wrath Classic, and half a dozen or so classes are estimated of actually being capable of doing upwards of 8k. And again, these sims are with BIS being played perfectly and on a 3-minute patchwork encounter. But XT isn't entirely a patchwork encounter either. There are ads that now spawn from the light spark and you have to move out with gravity well. Also, it's extremely healing intensive too, as his tantrum is doing 10% max health every second over 12 seconds. You need big cooldowns for each one to smooth out the damage. Just as a comparison of how much 155k DPS over 6 minutes really is, top speedrun guilds are currently doing patchwork in about 1:30 with an average raid DPS of 180k. That's full blast on a zero mechanics fight, and it's not massively ahead. XT is hard. Another one I got to see quite a bit of was the Iron Council, which it turns out on hard mode isn't a joke fight either. None of them are, really. If there was an easiest hard mode, it would be Thorim. On Iron Council, the final phase of the fight has the boss instant kill a target every 25 seconds. After this happens, he heals 20% of his max health, reducible by Mortal Strike effects, and gains 25% more damage. damage. Realistically, he has to die before the third instant kill, or he'll just randomly start one-shotting people. He has 10 mil health, which needs to be done in around 1 minute, so you're looking at about 166k rate DPS. You do enter the phase with a rune that increases damage by 50% and or your cooldowns, however, so it's not as hard as XT. Still, it's a very tight DPS check in phase 1 gear. And it's worth mentioning too, for the current PTR pass, you can stack classes and gear as much as you want. All phase 1 gear is on vendors, so people are giving themselves the best chance of success here. And as hard as hard modes are, that is on 25 man. 10 man is significantly easier on both difficulties. Take XT again for example. On 25 man, the heart has 10 million health to do in 30 seconds. On 10 man, it has 1.7 mil. And when we did it, the boss was also bugged and not doing the extra mechanics, but it was an easy one shot regardless. Normal 10 man will also drop some big upgrades compared to tier 7. The best items we can get in tier 7 at the moment are from 25 man KT and Malagos, and these are item level 226. Ulduar 10 normal will be 225, 10 hard mode 239, and 10 hard mode weapons 245. 245 is what you would originally get in Wrath from Trial of the Crusader 25 man normal. I think for a lot of guilds out there, the week 1 play is 100% going to include 10 man raiding. You don't want to pass up on all these chances for upgrades. The exception for 10 man being quite a bit easier is Algalon though. On both difficulties, this fight is not a joke. He's received about 20% bonus damage and health to keep him as a relevant challenge, and let me tell you, if you thought Brutalis could go through your tank's health bar fast, wait till you see the amount of damage Algalon does versus tanks in tier 7 gear. He was already considered a tank buster back in the day, and now you have several healers playing ping pong with your tank's health bar, which is dipping to 20% every couple of seconds if the boss lands a few hits back to back. Oh, and he spawns after 1 hour too, so good luck. Moving on though, I also think the content from now on in Classic in general would benefit much more from a guild point of view if you did want to see it all the way through. In tier 7, you could pug it all very easily. Very few pugs are going to be doing any hard modes in any reasonable space of time if they release in their current state. As for GDKPs, where there's gold involved, people will find a way. The payout on those big ticket items in the early weeks will push people to clear, but for the most part, I'd expect many of them to default to clearing normal modes for a while until gear allows for hard modes to really be easier. Speaking of clearing the raid in the first place, the world first might actually be a little more interesting and last for over an hour for Ulduar. As of doing this, I believe only 1 or 2 guilds have successfully cleared Yogg 0 and Algalon, and they are currently able to benefit from picking any comp and getting BIS Phase 1 gear. Also, the Realm First achievement, Death's Demise, has been changed somewhat compared to 2009. Now you have to do all the keepers on their hardest difficulty, including the Iron Council, making it harder than it was originally. This has been done so top guilds don't have to choose between an easier and safer Iron Council defeating Rune Master last and having access to attempts on Algalon in the same reset. Particularly the pre-nerf Yogg 0 fight at the moment really demands you stack as many warlocks as you can possibly bring. Either way, expect to see a lot of DK, Rogue, Warlock, Prop Pala Tank, Holy Pala heals, and Disc Priest healers. The harder fights in early levels of gear will need quite a bit more min-maxing than Classic content has ever demanded, well, ever, if I'm honest. Looking forwards to future raids, Blizzard has not mentioned any plans to do pre-nerf content, so Ulduar pre-nerf could be the hardest raiding we see until Kata Classic. I would appreciate it if Blizzard went to the effort of seeing if there's a possibility of doing pre-nerf in the future too. You can always nerf raiding content if it's too hard, and we now have multiple difficulties as well, so people can choose what they would prefer to take on. For week 1 in Ulduar, I think for the majority of the guilds, your progression should actually be on 10-man hard modes, and you should just go normal 25-man as far as you possibly can. The later 10-man bosses do have some challenges to them, and the gear is going to be very important for your overall progression on 25-man. It sucks due to the changes in raid size, but I would schedule in some 10-man for sure. The whole jump in difficulty makes me wonder too, do people even really want hard raids in Classic? It's never really been what it's about. It's always just been the case that wait till the next raid's hard, this one was easy, and we did have that partially come true during TBC, but with current gear levels and with current balance, Ulduar is just a step up on another level compared to anything else. Tier 7, that being Nax 2510 and so on and so forth, has numerically been the most popular tier of raiding ever in Classic, and it's incredibly simple. The amount of people able to easily see the content has been a big win, and I feel as though I always hear people say go play retail if you want this progression-based content, but with the new divide in difficulty, this content is really coming to Classic now in earnest. Though I will say the two games are extremely different, and there's so many reasons to prefer one game over the other than raiding. There's a lot more to both experiences than just this one part of it. But Ulduar does feel like a turning point, one that we're not really going to be going back from. We'll see how guilds react to the challenge. Will they push through, or will some guilds just settle as we are a normal mode guild and we do some of the hard modes on 10-man? Oh, and just as a final thought, if this was true to Wrath of the Lich King's original raiding, Heroism and Bloodlust and the rest of your cooldowns would not be resetting on a wipe. Trust me, you're going to be so glad this changed when you're running back to Iron Council for the 15th time in one evening. All in all, Ulduar is shaping up to be a raid which I feel as though lives up to the expectations and the hype that people have given it. Yes, expect it to be cleared on day one, similar to how Liquid or Echo may clear the latest retail mythic raid by the start of the second reset. It doesn't mean it's easy, it means the good guilds are good at the game and they prepared a lot more than you have. 10-man raiding is going to be very important early. They're a source of tons of upgrades which are going to be super helpful for when you finally go into 25-man, because a lot of the tougher hard modes do come down to damage really solves all of your problems. Speaking of damage though, how should you set expectations for clearing the content? What if you play a non-meta DPS and you're seeing everybody stacking Warlocks, Death Knights and Rogues? If your main raiding is GDKP, honestly I bet most of them will just clear the easy fights for some time and there wouldn't be much specialization exclusion. The goal at the end of the day is to make gold here. If you have one plate wearer in the raid, you're gonna invite a warrior DPS or a rep paladin despite what any DPS charts may say. In the pug world, I mean, it's not going to be pretty, is it? People already opt for meta comps in tier 7 where bosses are big target dummies with few relevant mechanics. Do I really need to say more? Being a part of a guild depends on your guild quite a bit, but expect a lot of people to come back for Ulduar, and chances are if DPS is lacking, you could very well be on the bench. This is just something that happens when content gets hard, and a lot of the harder fights are DPS checks. Also, if you want the meta achievement to mount, you're gonna want to join a guild. You'd need a giga GDKP to boost you through that anytime soon. For me, after having tested this raid on the PTR a little, I can say I prefer the divide of difficulties into separate sections, and I'm surprised how much I've missed the feel of progression raiding. Getting perps and upgrades is nice and all, but it's better when you feel as though you've earned them through overcoming a difficult challenge. And believe me, after you get a first kill, bosses which took dozens of attempts will fall over in a few, and it's a really good feeling. I do hope that Ulduar goes live in what may appear to be a bit over the top in terms of difficulty on hard mode. I strongly believe gear will really bridge the gap after a first few weeks, and Blizzard can always drop a few nerfs late on into the raid towards when Trial of the Crusader is dropping if they feel as though they need to. It's looking really positive though. We don't have a release date yet, probably mid-January, around then at some point. Also, this was the first round of testing. Maybe they give us some better gear to try with on the second one. Let me know your thoughts though, whether you did the PTR at all, whether you did Ulduar back in the day, and if you're going to be giving it a go when it drops in Wrath Classic. That's everything from me today. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.